Alright, we've got 3 packages, which doesn't have a lot of content, so we're going through the Christmas related stuff, which is mostly non-anime DVDs. We got the first 5 volumes of the Real Ghostbusters in one box, and then volumes 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So that, I don't know if that's all of the Real Ghostbusters, but that's a lot of it. We've got the BBC version of the Chronicles of Narnia. I think they called this a serial. It basically covers, well, it mentions right here, The Lion in Which the Wardrobe, Prince Caspian, Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and The Silver Chair, which is one more story than what is covered by the theatrical stuff. And speaking of the theatrical stuff, I got Prince Caspian. These are things I received. This is all Christmas presents. I got Willow. Good, classic, creepy. I got Stephen King's The Shining, which is a 3-episode version of The Shining. It's supposed to be a more faithful adaptation of The Shining compared to the famous Stanley Kubrick movie. Let's see, we've got Star Trek Deep Space Nine Season 4, which is slowly catching up on Star Trek Deep Space Nine DVDs. Well, these DVD piles are kind of stapled back here. How annoying. Can't get them to stop sliding, sorry. Let's look at these. We've got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original movie. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. The quality is interestingly not so great, I guess, on the print. The Great Gatsby, Catch Me If You Can, The Aviator, and Shutter Island, which is interesting because I guess I'm a little low on Leonardo DiCaprio movies, which I think was part of the goal of my friend there. Let's see. More stuff arriving. Sorry, I'm shuffling DVDs back here. This isn't exactly a Christmas present, but hold on. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out the best way to show these. Well, it's 5 of the seasons of Northern Exposure. Seems to be 2 copies of season 1 here. I have to figure that out. This is more of a hand-me-down, where my friend's mom's copies are kind of becoming less readable, I guess. So she got her new stuff for Christmas and gave me her hand-me-downs because I got a disc polisher in case it's related to scratches or whatnot. Come on. God, they're making that tape harder and harder. Let's see. Just being careful about getting the receipt out of the way. Excellent. Although this is Zwei or Tway, and the next one is coming out next month. Let's see. This one, of course, is falling apart in my hand. Is a combination DVD manga, Attack on Titan Volume 20 Special Edition. Which I'm not quite sure which anime episode is there, but a sudden visitor to something is cursed. I don't know. And in that. So this week's anime is very low. We got Sengoku Basara, The End of Judgment. The movie, I think. Region A, English, dub with Japanese, dub and sub stuff. Dub, sub dub. Contents, DVD 1, DVD 2. Makes me think this is actually a series if there's multiple discs of each. So what does it say back here? I guess right there, 12 episodes on 2 DVDs. So no, this may be something like an end of sort of thing. Let's get in here to Attack on Titan Manga Volume 20. and this reminds me, the PD for, let's see, promotional video for Attack on Titan Season 2, which airs next year. Start up. Let me make sure there's... don't know what to make of these. You know, you got Manga Volume 20. Oh, this is, okay, related to what was on the cover of the box, and this is A Sudden Visitor. A Torturous Curse of Adolescence. I really need to catch up on these. I haven't watched... Ow, for fuck's sake, I forgot. These manga volume ones are made out of some sort of really thick plastic that I can't get with my fingernails. Yeah, nothing complicated on the inside. Guess I'm going to take this, put it aside, and then we got a Kizumonogatari, which looks very different from the other Monogatari releases, which tend to have characters on them, which is kind of one of the things about the series that just is interesting. The show itself tends to have a similar tone as it goes. This says original soundtrack CD. Original English subtitles. I guess I was trying to think. Should be a movie if I'm not mistaken. The first of two, if I'm also not mistaken. 63 minutes, single layer. I guess that's gonna get tossed because it wasn't designed to be inside this. Part 1 Teketsu. See, this is what I would have more expected to be the imagery on the box itself, I think. Which is interesting. As usual, the backgrounds are backgrounds. Let's see, this is Blu-ray Part 1, and that would make this the CD soundtrack, because it says compact disc right there. Original soundtrack, yeah. So, it's interesting. It's not the most glamorous part of this release. Got a booklet. We've got some postcards, which, as usual, these are the questionnaire, the standard proof of purchase. What does that say? Yeah. So yeah, again, you know, a small release week. Although there was a lot of non-anime stuff, but this week's anime DVD collection update. So where was I last week? I don't remember. I did watch One Piece Season 8 Void 5, which I do believe finishes up Season 8. And it was actually pretty good. Last week's was kind of... or the last volume of... or the last DVD release of One Piece Season 8... whatever. One Piece. Like I said, it was kind of a little on the weaker side. Not necessarily too bad, but... kind of... it felt like it's... I guess I don't know what to say too much about it. I guess the important part of bringing that up is this week gets back to stuff that's somewhat more relevant to what's going on in the series, and there are a couple things I had heard about there, and I'm going to prepare for the next season. Hopefully that is going to be coming out. I haven't checked too far in the future on, I haven't seen Season 9, but Season 8 comes to a pretty good close, and it's definitely setting things up for Season 9. This is a good transition point, I guess, because sometimes you have the One Piece seasons that are clearly going to transition to the next season, then you have ones that complete a good story arc, and this one kind of wrapped up a couple of ideas, kind of, not exactly. It's more like it's addressing some ideas the series has had. It's... hard to say where it is progressing compared to the overall main story that sometimes is there and sometimes is not, I guess. But overall, God, how many episodes in is this? 516, so I've watched 515 episodes. And there's some things that were even introduced. Well, geez, how far back were they introduced conceptually? I'm trying to think when that episode was, and I can't remember, but yeah, it felt good, you know. It's like, it's not the best thing of One Piece ever, but it was some good world building, some good character building, some good thoughtiness, and some One Piece strangeness that's kind of an endearing quality of the series itself. So overall, you know, I enjoyed Season 8 Voyage 5. Next up, I watched My Love Story, also known as Ori Monogatari, I believe. I had to look it up because I did so poorly memorizing it last time. It was pretty good. There are some things about it that I could kind of see wearing a little thin. For me, it didn't go over the boundary to becoming unwelcome, but it did, there are things in it like, I guess the idea is he's kind of, some of the characters describe him as a gorilla, and I think the idea of the anime is he kind of almost is insofar as, you know, he's not strong in the thinking department, instead he feels strong, but he's a real white knight sort of person, and ridiculously strong. And then there's one of those things where you're like, well, especially near the beginning, this anime kind of goes out of its way to kind of make it feel like why it's great to have him in situations that I'm not sure are really that common of a problem. A real common one, for example, or a really good example, and this is something that I don't know how often it happens in reality, but I suspect that it doesn't happen anywhere near as often in reality as it does in entertainment. That would be, there's construction going on and there's an I-beam being held up by a crane that falls off the crane. You know, disasters happen, but it's one of those things where it's kind of a freak accident, and it's kind of unlikely our characters would be anywhere near a freak accident like that if it even happened, but his gorilla-like strength, I guess, is kind of irrelevant. And I don't know. The anime, fortunately, kind of sets that sort of stuff up, but doesn't depend heavily on it. It just kind of is there, so we can think, he's a great person because he can do this stuff that I don't know in reality a person like this would actually have that much opportunity to actively deal with that sort of stuff, or something like that. So there's a disconnect like that, and that did remind me of another thing where when I described him as a kind of white knighty sort of person, I guess a lot of this makes sense from the point of view that he's kind of set up as being a sort of not that smart of a person anyways, but it's almost like he's a 5-year-old kid in a relationship with a teenager. It's one of those things that can be both endearing and cringy and stupid, so I can understand people not liking the anime because of that. For me, it didn't quite cross the boundary, but it's like the way he... I don't want to talk about that because that's a little spoilerish, but you know, there's just some ways he approaches some things with other characters that are kind of in line with that, and then there's his relationship with her where he has these really poorly conceived notions about what women want. And now maybe there's a possibility that Japanese women kind of expect that to a certain degree, but at the same time, I can't help but think that it's ignoring reality. It's sort of like you could say, I'm not going to go pick up cake for this one event because the people involved are pure-hearted and they don't like sugary treats or something like that. You know, that doesn't necessarily make sense because people actually like sugary treats. You have people who maybe don't have a taste for it, but they're kind of an exception to the norm. And at the same time, You have people who don't eat it even though they like it for a different reason. And it's like he wasn't talking about those sorts of reasons, so he's kind of got this detached from reality, which may be okay because, you know, he's a first year in high school, I guess, and he's not been exposed to it, and I don't know. So it's kind of a strange thing to kind of notice these things, to see them as this could really disrupt the anime if it's done wrong, but it doesn't even come near the fence balancing point as far as I'm concerned. But, you know, they're still there. Otherwise, I actually thought most of the characters in this were pretty good. I think the only person I wanted to punch was the guy who... I don't want to say that because that's a spoiler. But it's pretty much the last major story arc there, and then they kind of made him kind of not so bad, but it's like there was a level of entitlement there which is really painful, and part of the pain of that was, of course, no, I don't want to talk about it just because I kept going on, and I don't think I've said more than I intended to. So let's go on to the next. That's a Wakaba Girl, which I thought was actually pretty okay. Maybe good. It's definitely one of those girl slice of life. I'm not sure how much I believe the character personalities so much as they feel more tropish. You know, I've kind of talked about that about some slice of lives before. It's like the first episode didn't actually feel like a them meeting for the first time episode for some reason. Although I guess it was supposed to be. And maybe that part's kind of weird, but overall, I think the reason this works out more than some of the others I've seen is because the episodes are much shorter. I think they're 8 minutes each. I can't do the math on the back right now, but basically, my observation while watching it is there are a lot of things that, you know, a lot of these slice of lives are going to cover, and their characters are maybe going to feel like memes, or they're going to feel unrealistic or something like that, and not really necessarily challenging or super fresh. But by making it 8 episodes, it's able to visit these with these characters they made, which didn't feel like they fit perfectly in my world view or my observational preferences or whatever, as, oh yeah, these are characters who I just want to watch go through school and be normal, sort of like Azumanga Daioh or Nichijou. Now, technically I've not watched Nichijou yet, just lots of really funny clips from YouTube, which is finally going to be fixed, because early in February Funimation is finally releasing Nichijou here in the States. Woo-hoo. But for this, you know, at 8 minutes per, it introduced the concepts, but didn't overdo its welcome. And since I didn't feel like the characters were ones I wanted to watch extensively, this balanced it out pretty well. So, about the only problem was being subtitled only. It kind of got in the way of, oh, look, I still have the Blu-ray in the player, so it's a good thing I dug this out. But, about the only problem is that because it's subtitled only, it's tricky to do some kinds of Pokemoning in this at the same time. Especially since I've been playing both games simultaneously when I have the bandwidth. But that's this anime. I thought it was okay to good. It probably won't wow anybody, I think, but for people who have seen a lot of this stuff and they kind of like it, but they find that a lot of them are more hit or miss than hit, this one balances itself out well by having a different, quicker pacing, so it doesn't have to keep coming up with ideas and stretching them out or anything like that, or coming up with running gags that fall flat for some reason, etc. So, outside of that, what have I been doing? I have been watching a lot of stuff. I try to always have something on, but I guess for anime, the thing I really want to watch next is OR Monogatari, which Volume 2 is there, and I have to find out where in here I buried Volume 1. I should really catch up on a lot of this stuff. This is a pile of stuff that needs to be ripped. And I've just been very slowly ripping the non-anime stuff that you've seen I have a lot of. In fact, I think these are the last 3 I need to rip, but putting data on my server so I can put these away, throw them in the storage, and it's complicated. But other stuff I have watched, I don't know that I've poked around too much with Simpsons and Seinfeld. With Simpsons, I don't know. I guess a part of me wants to feel motivated to watch specific episodes, but other parts of me kind of worries about watching hints at the transition of Marge and Lisa into less enjoyable characters. You know, because they're kind of nicer in the first season, I think. Although there was some stuff there which I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Seinfeld, part of the problem is I forgot just how much our main characters can be assholes sometimes. And sometimes they're assholes because other people around them are being assholes, and it can be kind of stressful to binge watch, I think. Which is probably why I've been sticking to Twilight Zone, which tends to not irritate so much. Instead, it fascinates, but it's kind of got different sorts of problems, kind of related to its age and thoughts of kind of how much some of the thought process behind some of the stories have matured over time, I guess. It's not something that's completely outgrown what it is, but it's at the same time, you know, you can kind of think of some of that stuff. But, you know, it's still really fascinating because I finished all of the first season of it, and they actually ended that first season in a way that kind of is an end of the first season, which is not something I would have thought about, not something they would have thought about, and of course there's more seasons after that, but it's interesting because, you know, you kind of got this insight into a world that was still kind of maturing into what works and what doesn't work. I mean, even at that point, they still would have had what? Well, I guess that was the late 50s to early 60s. So they would have had 1 or 2 decades of stuff. Well, actually, I guess I'm not quite sure when television series sort of started, but maybe Twilight Zone was a television series. I think it was, but no, of course, because they're advertising the same damn thing all over again. Are they advertising TV shows? I don't know. It's just, you know, there's interesting things such as through most of the first season, you have the same opening to Twilight Zone being used for most of it, and then for the last 3 or 4 episodes, it changes. And this is out of 36 episodes, so it's kind of weird. Now, maybe starting season 2, I find that they continue using that old one, and it's that, I don't know, but, you know, it kind of feels like that's an example of something that's kind of maturing as it goes, you know, or it's part of the maturation process. It's early cinema, but at this, well, maybe early television, but at the same time, you know, so much of it works even for what it is compared to stuff from now. I mean, a lot of these mysteries we can actually see in advance because Twilight Zone kind of set up, oh, well, that's the twist. Assuming that there is a twist. Sometimes the episodes don't have a twist. Sometimes you predict wrong. You know, it's been enjoyable. But outside of that, I guess maybe because I just got Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and I guess because among random YouTube videos there's been some Star Trek Voyager stuff and some mentioning of some aspects of Deep Space Nine that I am not really that aware of and felt I should watch Deep Space Nine to get more aware of, although I've got a lot of seasons to go, so there's no big rush. But, you know, I've been trying to watch some of season 1 and get into the pattern of it. I think the first 2 episodes, you know, the first 2-parter that started, I think was okay. I think what slowed me down was episode 3. I don't think I cared about too much. I didn't think it was bad, but I guess I kind of felt the need to pursue anime instead, which of course I really ought to do because I only have 1 more week, but, you know, 1 more week until I go back to work. But, I don't know. You know, it's my time, I should watch what I want to watch. I guess before going to Pokémon, I did pre-order all of next month's stuff today. Now, I don't know if I can remember exactly everything that was there, but it seemed like a very slim pickings. Like, I don't even think I have anything arriving for next week, which basically means I need to pad it, but I guess my plan in that regard is this weekend is a IkiCon. It's a anime convention here in Austin, and I think that's probably a good excuse to go there and let's see, because normally they're selling DVDs there in some way, shape, or form, and last year most of the stuff would have been stuff I already have, so I was basically looking for things I don't have, which is mostly in the hentai department. So as long as I prepare in that regard, next week may be a hentai update. I guess we'll find out. Because I'm going to the anime convention, I'm not ordering anything that I expect to show up within a week. I don't know if that's a good or a bad plan, but that's what I'm going to try to do. So I guess if any of y'all are there, you can try to look for me, but I don't know if I'm going to dress up as Mario or in an anime shirt, and it might only be, I might only be there briefly, and it might be kind of weird to just interact with somebody. I don't know. But it's the sort of thing where I don't think I've ever announced before that I'm going to a convention. I'm just going there to shop, but yeah. So, Pokemon. Let's see. So, as usual, the battle tree is bullshit, but I guess I've played with a couple of teams. See, my goal with the battle tree at this point isn't to get super deep into it, but I want to get at least 30 battles deep. Because once you start getting 30 battles deep, and you can kind of do that consistently on a day-by-day basis, you can keep getting bottle caps. And bottle caps are kind of useful for bringing up the slack in terms of things that are not quite perfect. Like, I've got, of the 7 Ultra Beasts, one of them I don't have access to go and get one that would be of the build I would want. But I'm not quite sure what I would want for that one anyways. So the other 6 I kind of have rough ideas, so that kind of brings together a 6 Ultra Beasts for an Ultra Beast team, which seems like a fun thing to have built, but a lot of their stats need some repairing because a couple of them were really painful to capture. So I went with something that could be repaired, but it requires bottle caps, which means I need to be able to be getting bottle caps every day if I'm going to start repairing them. But at the same time, this is why I'm playing 2 games at the same time. I can be doing that in one game, and in the other game, I still want Dittos in order to do some breeding. It turns out that the breeding stuff is very useful, but, even though I have a Jolly Ditto with 4 perfect IVs, one of them is the wrong one, none of them are speed, and so for a Jolly Ditto, you'd probably want one with the perfect attack and a perfect speed, and then defenses or HPs or whatever. And I guess some of the idea is I'm trying to do that at the same time, which is why I had to build more utility Pokemon, because if Snorlax can't be in both games at the same time, and one of them catching Dittos and the other one EV training Pokemon, catching Pokemon when I'm not doing Battle Tower stuff or something like that, then I really need 2 Pokemon that are kind of dual purpose. So I trained up a Caesar that's designed to do SOS battling for me in the Baton Pass to a Smeargle, although I think I want a handful of Smeargle, because the one I got right now, its idea is to try to capture Wimpod. But I kind of realized it's multi-purpose because it's also trying to capture ghosts. And I think really I need a Smeargle that's Wimpod focused. I need one that's ghost focused. Probably another one that's another kind focused, because he has trouble dealing with SOS battling because he doesn't have any moves that can actually finish anything off. This one utility Smeargle I made has Spore, Hold Back, because that's what Snorlax knew, so it was quickest to teach it to him. He knows Soak, so he can turn a ghost type into a water type and use False Swipe on him. And then he has Gastro Acid to suppress the ability, the idea being that for Wimpod, if I want to, if I really want to make sure I can just capture one easily, I can Gastro Acid to suppress its Wimp Out ability, and then I can False Swipe it down to 1 because it's not going to run away anymore, and then I can put it to sleep and catch it. But that means Smeargle can't finish anything off, which means that if SOS battling happens, he can't gain control of it by sporing one, false swiping, and you know, doing all that stuff. So really, I should probably make a small array of Smeargles, since there are other things that would actually be useful to have on him that I just never got around to. But I guess that's the idea, is EV training the Pokemon I've got right now, which are mostly incomplete Ultra Beasts, and that project is actually mostly done. I just need, I got a second Pheromosa that's not going to be a utility Pheromosa, who should be more interesting, and then and that would be my last Ultra Beast to EV train, and then I have to get bottle caps and reach the point where I need to level them up. I don't know. Shiny Pokemon have actually been kind of interesting. I don't know if I mentioned I have a shiny Milotic that came up when I was trying to breed Feebas. You know, so I saved the shiny Feebas, said, if I just bottle cap, hyper train these two stats, then it's the perfect Milotic that I was looking for. And it'll be shiny too, because it's the right nature, it's the right gender, because the female Milotics have those nice longer tendril things, tentacle head things, ribbons. But outside of that, I think I've caught 3 other shinies already, which is interesting because I don't feel like I've been trying to get them, but I guess that's what the shiny charm does, which I do have, you know, makes it much more likely to happen. And let's see, I do have a shiny Ditto from the other game that I transferred over, but I also caught a shiny Grimer, and I never realized that the Alolan Grimer is the same color as the shiny Grimer non-Alolan, and they're reversed for the Alolan form. The major difference being the Alolan form has the yellow smear dripping from its mouth thing. So it was kind of weird saying, oh, it's a purple Grimer. Oh, I see. Shiny is blah. I also got a shiny Meowth. I don't know that these shinies are going to be as useful, even if I do try to repair them with bottle caps. But it's interesting to still have them. You know, you capture shinies when you get them, and yeah. So let's see. Outside of that, maybe I didn't even need to talk about Pokemon, but I did. And I guess that's pretty much my update. Yeah. Y'all have a nice New Year's, and I'll see you next year.